Welcome, everybody, to episode 30 of the Old Men Magic podcast. Alex, 30 episodes.
30.
We are the same age in episodes as Magic the Gathering is in years. This is our 30th anniversary edition.
Did we produce some sort of low-quality commemorative product?
I got nothing. for people, which is probably better than the proxies. At least our nothing costs $0.
Yes.
We're not charging $1,000
we're not charging for nothing.
Not even $10, not even $1. This is all free for everybody's enjoyment. If you do enjoy this, please subscribe to the Old Man Magic podcast. Please give us a like. Please hit that notification bell. Alex, I'm going to start today's episode with some follow-ups to the previous episode. So in the previous episode, we were finishing up our review of the Enter the Battlefield creatures from Visions. We came across one Enter the Battlefield creature that I don't think either one of us remembered from back in the day. It was Phyrexian Marauder.
Okay,
Let me pull this guy up.
We're talking about that. It was weird.
Am I spelling Marauder correctly? Doesn't matter. I think I.
The internet will help you.
This was that weird X casting cost 0/0 artifact creature. When Phyrexian Marauder comes into play with X+1/+1 counters on it. Phyrexian, I put a win in there. Shouldn't have been a win. Phyrexian Marauder comes into play with X+1/+1 counters on it. Phyrexian Marauder cannot block. Phyrexian Marauder cannot attack. It's not really Enter the Battlefield creature. It is not in the same sense as the other ones we talked about. Like it doesn't have a triggered ability, but it comes into play. Yeah. I screwed this up. Let's start again. Should this have been, I'm looking at this now. Should this have been in our review of Enter the Battlefield creatures from last episode?
Probably not, but I didn't catch it.
I didn't either. But, I searched Scryfall for like comes into play, I think, or Enter the Battlefield. I think I did comes into play. Revision to last episode, it was a review of comes into play creatures from Visions. But anyways, we were talking about this card, and there were mentions of it being part of like a turn one kill. And neither one of us had any idea at all how in the world somebody could use this card to kill somebody on the first turn. Right? I was like, maybe you do some weird things with it. You generate a ton of mana, you fling it at somebody, because unless you pay the mana again, you can't attack with it. So what good is it? Maybe you make it big and fling it. I don't know. But that's still not a turn one combo. Maybe there's some way to do that turn one that I'm not thinking about. But I did a little bit of research. I found an example of one of the turn one combos some people would pull off with this card. So I'm going to play this video from this person because it gets kind of, I don't want to say it's not complicated, but it's maybe confusing to us because we don't know all the cards. It also is a little bit convoluted. Video from Tong Zou, Magic the Gathering, turn one kill combo, Flash Hulk. So we were on the right path last week when we were talking about it because we were like, I said, maybe this is part of like I think we saw a comment on Gather about Hulk, Protean Hulk. And I was like, oh, maybe this is like a part of the Flash Hulk combo that I heard about, using that card Flash from Mirage, using Protean Hulk, maybe. It is what it's used in, a Flash Hulk deck.
Good job.
So Tong Zou is going to tell us about this.
All right.
Well, first turn, everyone draws 7 cards.
Drawing 7 cards first turn, as one does.
Okay. So here are the cards. See, the backbone of the combo is actually 2 cards called Flash and Protean Hulk.
Flash and Protean Hulk, the backbone of the combo. Here's his starting hand. Alex, it is Vampiric Tutor, Simian Spirit Guide, Brainstorm, Street Wraith, Lotus Petal, Summoner's Pact, and City of Brass. So these are cards. You wondered why we weren't able to think about what the heck people were doing with this last week. It's because it involves cards that weren't printed when we played and that I don't think either one of us have ever seen before. I think I came across Simian Spirit Guide at some point recently, but had forgot about it. I had never seen Street Wraith or Summoner's Pact. Do you know what these cards do, Alex?
No. I think maybe I've just heard of Street Wraith in passing, but I don't remember.
Simian Spirit Guide is like a red Elvish Spirit Guide.
Okay.
So basically, it's I think it's 2 colorless and a red for a 2/2. It is. You can remove it from your hand.
Okay.
And from the game to generate a red. So that's pretty straightforward. Street Wraith. I don't think this card necessarily is needed for the combo. I think you just
version
need,
of this. Sorry.
I think that there is another version, but I think this is the first version. Okay, Dominaria Mastered. It was recently reprinted. Dominaria Mastered.
Maybe that's why I saw it.
That's a possibility. Probably. Modern Masters, Masters 25, Dominaria Remastered. That's probably, if you had seen it, that's probably where.
Okay.
I think all that's important about this card in the combo is that you could cycle it. Cycling, again, something we don't usually think about because we didn't used to play in formats where cycling existed.
Yeah.
Pay 2 life, discard this card, draw a card. So it's really here in this combo to allow you to draw cards. I'll get to the other one that was new to us a little bit later. I'm going to let him go. Continue, Tom.
Which is a green creature. And if you draw them both at the same time on the first hand right now, you can actually kill them. But I don't have the Protean Hulk or the Flash. I do have ways to get them from this hand, however. So I can still kill on the first turn.
So he's going to get them.
That's a cool thing about it. Okay, so I can show you how I can do that. First, play the land.
Plays City of Brass.
Lotus Petal.
Plays Lotus Petal.
Okay.
He's going to tap the City of Brass to play Vampiric Tutor.
I can use my...
With the Vampiric Tutor, he's going to go into his deck. He's going to put Flash on the top of his deck.
Okay.
So now Flash is on the top of his deck. You're like, how does he get into his hand now? That's where the Street Wraith comes in. So he cycles the Street Wraith to then draw a card. The card he gets to draw is now Flash.
Okay. So yeah, so Vampiric Tutor works well with Cycle, obviously.
Yes.
So
now
I've never thought, like you said, I've never thought much about Cycle, but okay.
We didn't play with Cycle, but yeah, now that makes Vampiric Tutor, that makes these tutors, makes Vampiric Tutor, makes the Mirage Tutors even better than they were back in the day, because you can cycle with them. I mean, there were other card draw things too that existed, but you know, when we were trying to figure out how this combo worked last week, I was like, well, what are you going to do? Ancestral Recall?
Yeah, in Cycle you can do as manaless card draw, which is
huge.
Good for early turn, like really early game combos.
Yeah, I don't know if you could make this first turn without cycling. Maybe there's a way. I guess
I didn't really get cycling before. I don't think. I was always kind of like, oh, that's just kind of like a real like secondary thing you can do with the card in like a niche situation. But it didn't occur to me that having that no mana ability really early would be, good for getting a tutored card off the top of your library. That's neat.
Yeah. So Flash, now in his hand. 1 colorless, 1 blue, instant. Choose a creature card from your hand. Put that creature into play as it was just played. So.
Okay. It's getting interesting.
The creature isn't in his hand yet, though.
Yeah. Can't pay the creature's casting cost reduced by 2. It goes into the graveyard.
That's key. If you can't pay the creature's cost reduced by 2, it goes into the graveyard.
Okay.
All right. So this goes on top of the deck.
So is he using this to feed his graveyard then, basically?
So what I can do now, cycle this card, pay 2 life.
Okay.
Cycle on the Street Wraith.
Flash in my hand.
Flash in his hand.
Get the Flash.
Okay, so now I need the Protean Hulk.
Now I need the Protean Hulk. This is where another card that we had never seen before comes into play, which is a wild card. And I'm like, why did Wizards ever even print this card?
I think I saw your note.
Oh yeah, I wrote
it's 0 mana, honestly. What the
fuck? Summoner's Pact from Future Sight. It says 0 casting cost instant. Summoner's Pact is green. Okay. Search your library for a green creature. Reveal it and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. So right now he has the Flash, but he has no creature in his hand. He can now get the creature into his hand, the creature in this case being Protean Hulk, by playing 0 casting cost Summoner's Pact.
Okay.
So there's a terrible downside. At the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 2 colorless and 2 green. If you don't, you lose the game.
And since he's doing a first turn kill, he doesn't care.
But yeah, it's almost like they printed this card. They put that downside into the card, but the card is designed in a way that like can obviously allow you to do broken things to kill somebody right away. So it's like, you shouldn't have printed this card.
I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe they didn't see that because it brings it to your hand instead of into play or something like that. And they figured this is just like, you know, a way to, I don't know, do what would otherwise be like a forecasting cost tutor, like for like a turn earlier or something. But like, yeah, I don't know.
Maybe nobody was thinking about Flash at the time, but Flash.
Anything 0 casting cost is like, you know, you've got to know that it's.
Except Ornithopter.
Except Ornithopter.
Continue, Tom.
And I can do that by using this card. Summon its fact. I search my library for a green creature card, and I put in my.
He's gonna get the Protean.
In the next turn, if I can't pay the 4 mana, I lose the.
My internet's not cooperating right now, but here we go. He goes using the Summoner Pack to fish out the Protean Hulk.
Okay.
So when Protean Hulk is put into a graveyard from play, search your library for any number of creature cards with total converted mana cost 6 or less and put them into play. And shuffle your library. So that's pretty insane. We were talking about whatchamacallit, Goblin Recruiter last week, and we're like, oh, okay, any card that allows you to like just get as many creatures as you want is insane. This one doesn't even make you put them on top of your deck in any order. You put them straight into play. You have to get creatures with a converted mana cost of 6 or less, but that's almost all creatures. I mean, come on now. It's kind of crazy. So
for any number of creature cards,
6 is a lot.
Total converted mana cost of 6 or less, and I put them all into play. So that's a really cool card. So that's how the combo works. These 2 cards called Flash Hulk.
So he flashes the Protean Hulk into play.
Yeah, and then he doesn't pay the 2.
He doesn't pay the 2.
Yeah.
It goes straight into his graveyard. And then he can gather up as many creatures with a converted mana cost of 6 or less from his deck as he wants, and then put them into play. So when Protean Hulk goes to the graveyard, he's going to search for the following creatures. He's going to search for 4 Disciple of the Vault. This is another reason why we couldn't think of how this combo would work. Here's another card that didn't exist when we played. Disciple of the Vault from Mirrodin. Less than 6 casting cost, 1 black. Creature, human cleric. It's a 1/1. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from play, you may have the target opponent lose 1 life.
Okay.
So he's going to go through his deck. He's going to pull 4 of these. He's going to put them into play. So when 4 of these are in play, anytime an artifact goes into his graveyard from play, he can do 4 damage to one opponent. So in addition to the Disciple of the Vault, he's going to pull 4 Phyrexian Marauders, which were X casting costs, XX power toughness. He puts them into play, pays 0. So they automatically go to the graveyard.
Yes, okay.
So that's 4 artifacts that are going to the graveyard for 4 Disciples of the Vault. That's 16 damage he gets to apply to any one opponent.
Oh, wait, I'm lost now. Wait.
Okay.
With the Hulk, it's only 6 creatures, right?
No, that's why it's crazy.
Oh, it says many creatures with up to 6 mana casting cost.
It's nuts.
Right? Oh, I was thinking it was 6 creatures for some reason. Okay, so okay.
Search your library for any number of creature cards with total converted mana cost 6 or less, and put them
any number of creatures. Okay,
nuts.
So 4 of the black dudes and 4 of the
Disciple of the Vaults,
and 4 of the Phyrexian Marauders.
And he's also going to pull another. There's another X casting cost artifact that has power and toughness. shifting wall. He's going to pull 4 shifting walls from Stronghold. X, artifact creature. 0/0, shifting wall counts as a wall. Shifting wall comes into play with X +1/+1 counters on it. He puts these into play. He plays 0 for X. They immediately go to the graveyard. That's another 16 damage.
All right.
So you do this, 32 damage. This is not Magic as Richard Garfield intended. These are the kind of decks that I don't think about at all.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy them. We've talked about this before, like these turn 1 kill, turn 2 kill, these quick combo decks. They're fun when a new set is printed for people to figure out what cards they can break, either in the new set or in combination with old cards. But then the moment that first person comes up with the crazy combo that just kills the opponent before they can even do anything, then it's not fun to put this together anymore. It's
only fun for the people playing the deck.
I don't even know why it's fun for them, because you're like, okay, I'm going to draw 7 cards, and then I'm just going to do this for the next 3 minutes.
I can still play this.
And then I guess your opponent can win if they have a
sack this for blue.
Force a Will. They could Force a Will some part of this. Anything that requires, they could Force a Will the Flash. Anything that requires him to play something, they could Force a Will.
Yeah.
But if your opponent doesn't have a Force a Will, it just goes off to the end. Not fun.
Yeah, I don't see why you should be like forced to include Force of Will in like any deck just to like stop this sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from play, you can have an opponent lose 2 life. Since I have 4 of them, my opponent loses 4
life.
4 life.
That's a pretty cool card though, Disciple of the Vault.
Yeah.
Shifting Wall, X, 0/0, goes straight to the graveyard. Phyrexian Marauder, X, 0/0, goes straight to the graveyard. Anyways, Tong explained it to us, Alex. I didn't figure it out myself. Tong explained it to us. I never would have figured it out because I didn't know about Disciple of the Vault. I didn't know about Shifting Wall, even though I played for a little bit when Stronghold was out. Didn't know about Protean Hulk. We read about it for the first time last week. We didn't know exactly how it was going to work. The other key was Summoner's Pact. Never heard of it. So, and Street Wraith, never heard of that either. But again, I don't think Street Wraith itself is critical for this combo. Anything that would allow you to cycle without playing mana. So I'm sure there's other cards that exist that you can cycle by paying life or cycle for pitching a card. You could even pitch a card to get this to work because there was a brainstorm in there that he didn't use for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, that's the turn 1 kill for Phyrexian Marauder, which I'm now realizing probably shouldn't even been in our Enter the Battlefield Creatures review from last week. But who cares? Who even cares? It's still fun to talk about. So that's the only follow-up I had from last episode, Alex. I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to touch on.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So next thing we're going to move on to is I don't have any MTG news for the week. There wasn't really anything I saw that got me excited. The internet was abuzz with a landfill full of cards, but I don't care about that. Everybody was making their videos. They were zooming in on the pictures and they were trying to figure out what sets were in there. Somebody even found a Magic the Gathering 30 card at the end, but it looked like it was planted.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody had somebody posted images, like a whole string of images that they snapped from the landfill. The very last one was the Magic the Gathering 30 card, and it was only one of them, and it was only from the back. It looked like it was crumpled up all nicely, but you could still see exactly what it was, just so everybody go, "Oh my god, they're throwing it away." So none of that got me excited, but I do have some personal Magic the Gathering news to talk about today. Talk about some two disappointing recent purchases. Nobody else cares about this, but I do. I want to talk to you about it. I received more damaged cards in the mail today, Alex. And it hadn't happened to me for a long time. When we first started buying cards again, I don't know, probably like 6 to 8 months ago, it seemed like every week, half the stuff I was ordering was like coming in damaged. If I'd get like 2 deliveries a week, one of them would be smushed. And they were all getting shredded because everybody sends them in just regular envelopes. They were all getting shredded going through the sorting machine at my post office because I talked to the post office people. Yeah. And they were like, that's what's happening. Everything that comes in these letters gets shoved through this sorting machine that has just like a little space that's just thick enough for an envelope to fit through. And when somebody tries to shove like more than 3 Magic the Gathering packs in like a hard plastic top loader, it's just thick enough that it just gets smashed when it's going through. Hadn't happened for a long time though. Until this week, I was trying to pick up some more pre-modern staples because there were some things that have come down significantly in price. So I was like, oh, I'll get one of those. Tried to pick them up. Was excited. It was the first time I was ordering from this vendor. It's a pretty big vendor. This is not their fault. The post office is smashing them up. But I wanted to bring it up because one part of it is kind of their fault. It's a little bit shady. Opened it up, smashed. All the cards, they were supposed to be near mint or light play, and all the edges and everything looked wonderful, but they all had now like creases or huge dents in like 2 spots of the card.
Oh.
Huge. So if you just like held it up like this, it was like huge crease there and a big dent, like somebody had just like taken the blunt end of a pen and like smashed into it or something. And I was like, okay, I got to send these back because they weren't cheap. I mean, it was several like $10 cards or something. So I'm not going to eat that. Every once in a while, I just don't have time to email people. And if I order something for like 17 cents and it comes smashed, it's just like, I can't be bothered this week. That's happened a few times, but this I got to send back. They were great. They were like, okay, we'll send you a self-addressed stamped envelope. Just pack it up when it arrives and send it on back to us. This is where I'm like, come on, guys. They sent it to me, multiple cards in a plastic top loader, fat, stuffed in there. So there was too fat to fit through the sorting machine. When they send me the packaging back to send it to them, they send it in a big fat bubble mailer. So I'm like, if you guys would have sent it to me to begin with in the bubble mailer,
yeah,
it wouldn't have been sent through the envelope sorter.
Right.
And it wouldn't have been smashed. It would have arrived just fine. Now, all of a sudden, when I tell you it arrives damaged and you want me to send it back to you, then you're very particular about the packaging and you want to make sure that it doesn't get damaged on the way back to you. What's the reason for that? Or is it like maybe they don't believe me that it was damaged?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe once they're damaged, they're like, oh, he's not going to be able to pack them easily again. Like, so it needs like a bigger, that's like my most charitable take on it.
But I'm like, come on now. They're already damaged. Now that they're damaged, I got to send them back to you.
I agree with you that, yes, especially for, if you're dealing with more than just a couple dollars in cards, like just, a bubble envelope would be fine. Why not just do that?
Yeah. I've noticed though, like even
most
the big
people don't
vendors
seem to be doing that though.
No, nobody does. Even the big vendors, like they just want to send it the cheapest way possible. And I guess they just figured so few of them. I guess the damage occurs infrequently enough that it's just better for their bottom line to just be like, okay, we're just going to lose this many packages to sorting or this many envelopes to sorting machines every year. We don't care. Yeah. It would cost more for us over the course of a year to pay for a bubble mailer every time. It's kind of a bummer, but
yeah. And it also gets back to the fact that, how many cards are getting eaten in the mail every year?
We've talked about this before. Attrition, post office attrition.
Post office attrition.
If my experience is similar to the rest of the world's experience,
I don't think it is.
We might as well just hold on to all of our cards are going to be.
I haven't gotten any damaged cards yet in the mail. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm not trying to rub it in.
Okay. Because it's like if everybody's post office was doing what my post office does, it's like I would say, my God, in 15 years, I'm going to have like the only copies of pre-modern legal cards, like pre-modern era cards in existence, because everything else will have been eaten up by the post office.
Yeah.
Anyways, those arrived damaged. Not a huge deal because, they were good about refunding, but I just wish they would have sent it in the bubble mailer to begin with.
Yeah.
A couple of days later, I get another envelope in the mail. And I'm like, ooh, this is from a vendor who always sends me perfectly crisp cards. They're one of my favorite vendors that I've been ordering from. It's usually like low-end stuff. There's like 3 vendors if I'm trying to get stuff cheap. If I see them on TCG Player, I always order from them because when I order near mint, it always comes near mint. They sent me some things this time, and they definitely came near mint, but they sent me this, Alex.
I know what that is. I think it is.
A Thunderscape familiar.
Yeah.
Which is one of these familiars that we discussed. They're super cool from Plane Shift. It's a red card. This is for I ordered a card for my commander deck that I'm building. First strike, black spells and green spells you play cost 1 colorless less to play.
Yes. I like this series of creatures.
Alex, as you know, my commander deck that I'm building is a Naya deck. It is not a red, black, and green deck.
Oh.
It is a green, white, and red deck. So they sent me the wrong familiars. So now I'm like, I'm in a mood this week, so I'm gonna send them an email about it and be like, I would like a refund. I'm hoping they don't make me send these back to them and give me the refund.
Wait, what did you order?
I ordered Thornscape familiars.
Thornscape. Okay.
The green, white,
and you got
red
Thunderscape.
One. I got Thunderscape.
Did you already say Did you already say that Thornscape?
I didn't say Thornscape yet. I said I was building a Naya deck.
Yeah.
Which is the green, white, and red one. But yeah, I ordered.
Yeah, I was just wondering how they got them mixed up. But I guess they have similar names.
I get it. It can happen.
Yeah.
I hope that when I email them, they're just like, we'll just send them to you for free. They're literally 17-cent cards. I don't want to have to package them up and go to the post office again for the 17 cents. It would be 34 cents because I ordered 2. They got the Thornscape Apprentice right. I think I'm going to add these to my commander deck. I came across these. We talked about the familiars. I don't know, a few times over the last couple months. And I've found out that it's not just the familiars they have in these color cycles. They also have apprentices, and there's like 2 others too.
Okay.
That are all.
I've seen some of these. Yeah, this is from Invasion.
Oh yeah, there's battle mages. So there's the familiars.
Yes, I've seen those battle mages.
The battle mage. They're all pretty cool, and I'm like, these seem good for commander decks.
I like this Thornscape Apprentice. That's pretty cool, especially for your color combo.
Yeah, Thornscape Apprentice. 1 green, 1/1 wizard. You can pay a white, tap the apprentice to tap a target creature. You can pay a red, tap the apprentice and tap target creature. No, sorry. Pay a red, tap the apprentice and target creature against first strike into end of turn.
I like that a lot, especially the first ability to tap a target creature. That's sweet. You have a little like Mazevith kind of deal in your pocket.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to kill because it's a 1/1, but it can lock down if they have 1 big blocker and you want to go at them with a bunch of small guys, but you don't want to get one eaten up by the big blocker. You can tap it. You can also prevent them from attacking you for a turn. I like it. I don't know if people play these in their commander decks. They're probably old news to people these days, and they're probably underpowered compared to a lot of other 1-drops, but
yeah,
the kind of stuff I enjoy. Little 1/1s with utility effects.
Yeah.
But that's it, Alex. That's my personal MTG news for the week. More smashed up cards from the post office, and an old reliable sent me the wrong card. It was a tough week when I came to MTG deliveries.
I'm sorry about that.
So if you don't have any news, we're going to get into our big segment for the week. This is going to be the beginning of a multi-episode odyssey where we cover the development of a major deck archetype, not only in pre-modern, but I found out that people played, like, this deck is alive and well in all sorts of other formats, including modern. It's like the idea is the same, but the creatures
use slightly different pieces in it.
Yeah. The pieces change, but the ideas are the same.
I saw in the article they talked similarly about, this was a long time ago, but they were talking about how the deck sort of like migrated between formats a little bit. Like it was popular at certain times and as like things were shifting out of.
Yeah. I'm going to pull up an article. And if anybody else knows like where to find articles like this, let me know. I love articles like this. I really want to find more on deck histories because I'm learning about decks now, getting back into Magic after a 10-year hiatus or whatever. What am I talking about? 20-year hiatus. The time has flown, Alex. We didn't really play for 20 years.
Almost dead.
Yeah. After 20-year hiatus, I'm getting back into the game. Pre-modern is the format that I'm most excited by at the moment. And there's these popular deck archetypes and themes in pre-modern, but the versions that people are playing these days aren't necessarily. I'm finding that the decks aren't new, really, because they're constructed from old card pools. So the decks that are like big and pre-modern today, they usually have origins, 20 years ago, when these sets that are pre-modern legal were first printed. People were making versions of these decks. They've changed over the years, but I would like to see like what they looked like when they were first put together and how they evolved as new sets were printed. I found this one on the Rock. So that's what we're going to be talking about in the next couple episodes, the evolution of the deck, the Rock. We've talked a little bit about it on some previous episodes, just like mentioned some cards that seem to be popular in it as they've come up in our discussions. It is all the rage in pre-modern circles these days because there's been big innovation in the Rock space, Alex. People removed some manimals and put in some shitty cards that allow them to draw extra cards. Drawing extra cards is good, but the card that they're using is kind of a shitty card that nobody really ever played, but it seems to be really good in this skeleton of the Rock. So it's big. People are innovating in the deck still. It's changing. It's being played in a lot of online tournaments. I wanted to talk about the early days. Found this great article on MTG Nexus written by Fade Ruin 2 years ago. It is called Deck History, The Rock and His Millions. So he talks about what the Rock is, what the Rock looked like when it was first put together, how it evolved over the years, who piloted some of the most famous versions of the deck, where it is in modern. So we're going to go over some of these versions of the deck. I thought this was a really cool article. So what is the Rock? It is a green-black mid-range aggro controlled deck. What's a mid-range deck, Alex, you might ask? It's an aggro controlled deck. What's an aggro controlled deck, Alex, you might ask? It's a deck that has aspects of aggro decks and control decks. It's kind of like every deck that I tend to build. I very rarely go like full aggro. I built a goblins deck recently. This is like mostly full aggro. But I rarely ever built like straight up like red burn decks, which would be full aggro.
Mm-hmm. I was the same way. When I did that, like I played like red blue because I wanted some like control in there with my burn, That's
kind of how I always am. I'm always like, I start with my favorite creatures, then I put a little bit of disruption or removal in. Maybe I'll throw in blue for like a couple counter spells, but I never go like full on counter. I'm always, I guess when I look at this and when I hear people talk about these different deck types, mid-range versus aggro versus control, I feel like I've always just gravitated toward mid-range decks my whole life in Magic. So the deck has gone through many different iterations across many different formats. It was first made official at the end of 1999, but its roots go back further than that. So Alex, the beginning of the deck, over 20 years ago, a 17-year-old nerd with dreams of making it big on the Pro Tour named Jelger Wiegersma. There's no offense when I called him a nerd. We're all nerds.
Yeah.
We have a Magic the Gathering podcast.
Yeah, we're a tribe.
Jelger Wiegersma, this is him, winning the GP Gothenburg in 2003. No, I don't know what it is. Maybe this is from 2003. Maybe this is from 2004. Maybe it's from 2008. I have no idea.
Yeah, the caption isn't really.
But that's Jelger. He had an idea for a deck, and this idea that germinated in Jelger's brain became the Rock. It was developed in 1999 for a Pro Tour qualifier, and the format at the time was Urza's Block Constructed, and it sounds like this all happened, like he put this deck together after the combo winter had occurred. So we haven't
I saw that in there.
We haven't gotten much into combo winter, but I think you and I have both read about it a little bit. And we did talk about one particular deck that was part of this whole combo winter banning. Remember when we talked about the memory jar deck?
Oh, okay.
Just dominating people in like turns 2 and 3 with this crazy memory jar Megrim combo. So Urza's block had all sorts of powerful cards printed. They hit the tournament scene and they were just rolling over everything else. So Wizards came in and they banned a bunch of cards from Urza's block. So this deck was put together after those cards were banned from formats. He was like, okay, what can
we do with what's left over here?
What can we do now? So he came up with this early version of the Rock. This is the Rock before it was the Rock. Sounds like the linchpin cards in this initial version were Phyrexian Plague Lord, Deranged Hermit, and Diabolic Servitude. One of these is still in like almost every version of the Rock that I see these days, but the other two aren't. The real keys were the Deranged Hermit, Diabolic Servitude action, it seems like, interaction. He won a Pro Tour qualifier with the early version of the deck. He called it Deranged Servitude, so it wasn't even named the Rock at this point. He called it Deranged Servitude. So do you remember Phyrexian? We're going to go over some of these big cards that are important for the deck. Do you remember Phyrexian Plague Lord, Alex?
No. I saw it here in this article.
We talked about this very briefly once, and I can't remember why.
We might have, yeah, but
it might have been the same time I was talking about the Rock for the first time, only for a couple minutes. Because I had first read about the deck, and people said that, oh, it was named after Phyrexian Plague Lord. And I was like, how is Phyrexian Plague Lord the Rock? Not very rock-like. He's practically skeletal. But Phyrexian Plague Lord is 3 colorless, 2 black, summon carrier, 4/4. It is a rare, first printed in Urza's Legacy. It has had many reprints. You can tap this guy and sacrifice him to give target creature -4/-4 until end of turn. So that's pretty cool. I mean, on its own, he's a removal for most creatures you're going to have to worry about. Although you got to pay a lot of mana to get him out there.
Right.
And if you don't want to use him for removal, he's still a 4/4 body. That's pretty good. But you don't have to sacrifice him. You can also sacrifice a creature. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. And to do this, you don't have to tap him or anything. So, like if you have token generators, something that's always spawning 1/1s, like you could just feed a bunch of them into the Plague Lord to just get rid of all sorts of stuff on the board that is giving you trouble. So he's pretty good removal. Rating of 4.178 on Gatherer, current market price of 43 cents. 44 cents. It's gone up 1 cent since I wrote this. The show notes yesterday, Alex. So I like this guy. He's cheap too. This is the other thing that I really like about this earliest version of the Rock, Alex. Like, this is not
too expensive.
Too expensive to put together. There's only one card in it, I think, that is expensive.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's the next one we're going to talk about, which is Deranged Hermit. So Phyrexian Plague Lord, it has this ability that you can use to kill your opponent's things by sacrificing it. So it's something that's going to go to the graveyard a lot, right? If it's doing its job, it's going to go to the graveyard. If you have a way to get them back, makes them great. Similar with Deranged Hermit. If you have a way to get this guy back, it makes it even better. Deranged Hermit is a rare, first printed in Urza's Legacy. It is on the reserve list, so it has not been reprinted. It will not be reprinted, supposedly. Casting cost of 3 colorless, 2 green, summon elf. So you got all sorts of elf synergy going on.
I never realized he was an elf.
Yeah,
before.
It's weird.
That's good.
The elf synergy doesn't matter in this deck, but it makes them great in all sorts of other decks you might want to. Actually, it does matter in this deck.
There's 1 or 2 cards in there about elves.
Yeah, does make it better.
Priest of Titania and Rofulos, I guess.
So this guy's a 1/1. It has Echo. During your next upkeep, after this permanent comes under your control, play its casting cost or sacrifice it. I was looking at this card. I'd seen it a couple other times, and I'm like, oh, you get to put out 5 1/1s for 5 mana. Not bad. But then I'm like, you got to pay the Echo cost. So that's like 5 1/1s for 10 mana. If you keep this guy in play, it's really 5 2/2s for 10 mana. Still not great, but still not terrible, but not amazing. We were having a discussion about this guy one time, and you were like, don't even pay the Echo. I can't remember what the discussion was about, but I was like, yeah, you don't have to pay the Echo. And then since then, I've thought of all sorts of instances, and I've come across different instances where I was like, yeah, don't worry about Pain in the Echo.
Hell yeah.
Who cares? And then you're making squirrels. He's not making elves, but he does make squirrels. So if you want to build him into a squirrel deck, you got all sorts of squirrel synergy there. Gatherer loves this card. It's 4.420 on Gatherer, very high rating. As I said already, there's many possible ways to build this guy into a deck in which you don't necessarily care about Pain the Echo.
I think he's born for a black-green deck, you know?
Yeah.
He goes to the graveyard maybe, and you want to bring him back. He creates all these tokens that you can use to sacrifice. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, he's great under these conditions. You need... And that's what this deck is. It's like... It's built... I don't know why I'm chewing ice all of a sudden into the mic. My throat was dry. Needed to do it. It'll melt soon. That's what this deck is. I mean, you just said, oh, this is great in a deck if you have a way to bring them back and if you have a sack outlet. That's essentially what this guy did. He built a deck around cards like this, where he also had spells that brought things back from the graveyard and also had spells that provided sack outlets. This is the only expensive card really in this old version of the Rock. If you want... No, that's not true. There's another one too. But the other one isn't necessary, I don't totally think. This guy is necessary. He had a crazy reserve list spike. I'm saying he, but I don't know. I don't know. I could be misgendering this hermit. This could be a female. Long hair, but men can have long hair too. Who knows? The deranged hermit, had a huge reserve list spike. 2020, it was available for $10. It over 10x.
That's
I mean, this
wild.
guy $125. This guy $125.
That's wild.
It has been plummeting.
Yeah.
So maybe now isn't a terrible time if you wanted to pick up deranged hermits. It started to go up again recently. Who knows what's going to happen to it? I don't know if this guy will ever go back down to $10.
Yeah.
I say never is a long time.
I feel like 20 or 30, I'd be happy buying it.
Yeah.
Not that I have, you know.
You could have picked it up. You could have picked it up for 30. Again, these prices on MTG stocks, if I go to TCG Player to look things up, the market price here always seems to like match what the near mint prices are on TCG Player. So I'm sure you could get moderate play or heavy play a lot cheaper. Why don't I just pull those up right now? Let me try to do that. Let me take a look. Because I'm curious. I just got curious.
Deranged hermit.
Let's go. I'm gonna avoid the damaged because I never like the damage. It looks like as low as $17 damaged. Let's go moderate play. Heavy play. Heavy play is $20. I don't like heavy play. Some people don't care though.
It's just, I mean, I wouldn't mind necessarily having heavily played cards like, I don't know how to say this. If I saw them and knew that they were like
exactly
in the better half of heavily played,
exactly,
because heavily played can mean a lot. I've seen some like really destroyed cards.
Yes. That's what I was thinking too when you started talking, because it's like heavy play. You know, none of these, as we all know, anybody who's ordered cards over the internet, not everybody has the same idea of like what any of these categories really should be. I get things sometimes that are light play that don't look light play to me at all, especially with older cards. People seem to be a lot more lenient with their grading when it comes to like cards from like the dark or earlier. They just have this idea in their head that like light play means that everybody like had them in the spokes of their bikes, like driving around. I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Like light play is light play, near mint's near mint. You know, we don't should have different rules for these older cards. If most older cards are beat up, then that just means that there aren't many near mint old cards. Doesn't mean you change the definition of the grades. Tangent. This is another thing I've experienced with recent purchases. The cards damaged from my post office and people who don't properly grade things. But deranged hermit, it's come down a lot. I've thought to myself, because when we first started talking about Magic again, probably around this time when a lot of people were getting crazy about Magic again. Again, we saw the prices going up. remember having conversations with you, and I found MTG stocks, and I started seeing these huge price spikes, and I was like, "Oh, Alex, we got to not buy. This is not sustainable. This is looking to me like a lot of like speculative stocks that I was looking at the time. This is just like, this is a part of a multi-asset bubble. People were just like throwing stimulus checks into reserve list Magic the Gathering.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, we can wait for these things to come down. They're going to come down. And a lot of them have come down a lot. What I don't know is how many of them are actually going to reach like 2019, 2020 prices. I don't know. Let's say they settle down, the bubble pops. I have no idea where it settles at, because like we now live in a world where there's been quite a bit of inflation for 2 years.
Yeah, that's kind of
So, like,
how I feel too with inflation. Like I feel like this stuff is bound to settle higher than it was, you know.
Yeah. If Magic the Gathering remains as popular, like
Yeah.
if all of a sudden people stop playing, then nobody's going to care about this cardboard any longer. But yeah, if it remains popular, like I don't know how many things, I wouldn't be surprised if most things don't actually ever reach this old value simply because of inflation. You know, $15 in 2018 is not $15 now. Tangent. Deranged Hermit. Great card for this deck, because when it comes into play, you put 4 squirrel tokens into play. Treat each token as 1/1 green creatures. Let's say you don't pay the echo, it goes to your graveyard. Let's say you have a way to get this card back into your hand or back into your play. You're going to generate 4 more tokens. Let's say you keep doing this. You generate token after token after token. How did
tokens?
How did Jelger do that, Alex? Well, he did that with the second part of his deck name, the Servitude part. He did it.
This card's sweet. This is a good card.
This is a good card. He did it with Diabolic Servitude. I love this card, not only because it has a great effect. There are other cards that have been printed since then have similar effects, but they're not fucking 22 cents, Alex. Diabolic Servitude is an uncommon, printed in Urza's Saga. There's been several reprints. It has this goofy thing on it, whatever this goofy thing is. We've seen it in a couple different cards. It's like I don't want to call him fat. I'll say husky because he's pretty built. He looks pretty strong. He's like a strong man.
Looks like the Juggernaut.
He kind of does, with a tiny head and like a bloody. His whole mouth is just teeth with like blood around it. I don't know what he is.
Is that the mouth? Yeah, oh yeah, it is. Yeah, I can
see
it
teeth
in this picture. Yeah, there's teeth. You're right. His big old mouth face.
Let's get to what the card is. It's an enchantment. When Diabolic Servitude comes into play, you choose target creature card in your graveyard and put that creature into play. So you would want to play this after you've already sacked one of those 2 previous cards I've talked about, I think, right? Because you want the thing has to be in the graveyard already.
Yeah.
So you want to get something else out. Let's say a Deranged Hermit. You want to not play the echo. Your opponent starts laughing.
But you also have. Sorry, I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead now, but like you also have methods in this deck to discard cards too. So you can feed your graveyard. You know what I mean?
You do. I don't know. I didn't even think about that. We'll talk about it because I think I know what card you're talking about. Unless there's another card, I'm forgetting what the effect of the card was. But I didn't even think about ever playing that card against myself because people just use it all the time. It's a heavily played card in pre-modern, at least, and they always put it in like every black deck to disrupt their opponent's hand, to like try to break combos and stuff. But you could use it on yourself, I think.
Oh, maybe not. We might be talking about different things, but keep going.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later. We'll see when we get there if we're talking about the same thing. So you got something in your graveyard. When Diabolic Servitude comes into play, you choose target creature card in your graveyard. You put it straight into play. So you can not pay the echo on your Deranged Hermit, save that 5 mana, then you can pay 4 mana to put him back into play.
Yeah. Or if you have a way to discard him to begin with, then you can just summon him for 4 mana instead of 5.
Yeah, to begin with. You never even have to pay that 5 mana. When the chosen creature is put into a graveyard, remove the creature from the game and return Diabolic Servitude to owner's hand. So you can only do this once with each one, right? Because you remove it from the game.
Yeah. But you can play instant speed effects to like foil that outcome. Do you know what I mean?
You could. I don't know if there's anything in this deck that does that, but
Yeah, I don't think
there
so,
are things like
but
that.
yes.
Yeah. When Diabolic Servitude leaves play, remove the chosen creature from the game. So also if somebody disenchants this or something,
Mhm.
it gets removed from the game. But you play it once, you bring your Phyrexian Plague Lord back after you sacrifice. You play this once, you bring your Deranged Hermit back in play. You make more tokens after you've not paid the Echo, whatever.
Mhm.
So it's recursion. You have essentially cards that have triggered effects when they enter the battlefield, like the Hermit makes tokens. You have cards like the Plague Lord that you want to sacrifice, put in the graveyard, and then you have the recursion to bring them back in the graveyard so you can reuse their effects. So here's the rest of the deck. Pull this article up. Jelger Wiegersma's 1999 Delft PTQ deck. And actually, I'm going to pull that up in Moxfield because I prefer to see the
Cool.
See the cards. I put this in Moxfield, Alex. Look how I'm amazing, aren't I? This is the kind of deck that I like to play. It's heavy on creatures. We got 29 creatures. I'm a creature kind of guy. The only other spells are really for duress, which I was thinking are just in there for a little bit of hand disruption. I know what you're getting at now, Alex. I was forgetting about this card. The Masticore. We'll get to that later.
That's what I was thinking.
I was thinking about duress.
Yeah, but it says opponent.
It does say opponent, yeah. So the only cards that aren't creatures are duress and the Diabolic Servitude, which is part of this recursion. Let me pull up. This is his list, right? It was just 3 Diabolic Servitude. That's the only thing that kind of scared me a little bit. Let me pull up Moxfield again. You kind of need this card, right? Like, what if you don't? I guess you could still win some games without Diabolic Servitude. You could. But, like, I want Diabolic Servitude in my hand every time. Why not make it a 4 of?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know why. I don't know why only.
So outside of that 3-card, let's call it a combo, Deranged Hermit, Phyrexian Plague Lord, Diabolic Servitude, the rest of the deck seems to be focused on getting lands in your hand, generating mana, and then feeding that mana to the Masticore. So let's talk about some of these cards that get the lands in your hand. And I think they're really critical because you can see he only plays 4 swamps.
Yes, I noticed that in here. And he doesn't have anything for black mana fixing.
Yeah, and a very important part of his deck is the Plague Lord, which is a 2 black spell. And let's say you only had 1 black spell. I mean, Diabolic Servitude is also critical. Okay, it's only 1 black, but you only have 4 black mana sources in the deck. You're going to go through a lot of games where you just don't pull a swamp. Ever. What if you pull 1 swamp and they blast it off the board or something,
Yeah.
But to deal with that, he has these 2 cards that I really like. The first, I'll call it a mana fixer, is Yavimaya Granger. Have you seen the Granger? Have we talked about the Granger ever? It is a common. It's first printed in Urza's Destiny. It's the only printing.
I don't know if we've talked about it, but I've seen it.
Yeah. That's the only printing of this card. Unless I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. Only printing of this card.
Crazy.
It is 2 colorless, 1 green, summon elf, 2/2. So, I mean, that's not terrible. Echo. During your next upkeep, after this permanent comes under your control, play its casting cost or sacrifice it. You don't necessarily need to keep this on the board if you don't want to, because I think it's really in this deck for this ability. When Yavimaya Granger comes into play, you may search your library for a basic land card, put that land into play tapped, shuffle your library afterwards. So if you're early in the game, you have a Diabolic Servitude or a Phyrexian Plague Lord, you don't have your black mana yet, you can play the Yavimaya Granger, you can get that swamp.
Yeah.
Super cheap, 24 cents, 3.774 on Gatherer. I like this card. The other one is one we've talked about, I think, in a couple episodes recently. I did the wrong one, Alex. I did.
My Elder.
Yavimaya Elder. Common from Urza's Destiny. It's had a kabillion reprints. It's 1 colorless, 2 green. It's 2/1. When the Elder is put into a graveyard from play, you may search your library for up to 2 basic lands, reveal them, put them in your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. He needs to go to the graveyard for you to do this, but I was going to say in this deck, you could sacrifice him to the Plague Lord. You probably wouldn't because you might not have your 2 swamps out yet. Really, what you probably do with them most of the time is pay 2 colorless, sacrifice them. Then you get your 2 lands from your deck, maybe the swamps. Mm-hmm. That's probably what I would target most of the time. And then you draw a card after that.
And you draw a card, yep.
So I like this guy a lot. Gatherer loves him too. He's 4.368 on Gatherer. Also cheap.
Yeah, I think this has a lot of synergy with this deck because, yeah, it helps you, like you say, get the swamps, and it helps you get a couple cards into your hand that you can discard to the Masticore, you know.
Yeah, even late in game, if you don't need the swamps or whatever, it gives you card advantage. That's when we talked about, man, what am I doing? Priests of Norm. That's when we first talked about the Elder, when we on our episode covering card advantage in green.
Oh, okay.
Right, because he'll put 2. He's 1 card, but he'll put 2 lands in your hand, and then also you draw a 3rd card.
Yeah.
So yeah, more to pitch to the Masticore if needed. We'll get to the Masticore. Manimals, Priest of Titania. 1 colorless, 1 green. Tap to add a green to your mana pool for each elf in play. You have elves. Yavimaya Granger is an elf. Deranged Hermit is an elf. Priest of Titania is an elf. So she counts herself as an elf. Mm-hmm. Who else is an elf in this deck, Alex? This guy.
I know. Rofalos.
Rofalos. Damn it. Not this Rofalos. The Llanowar emissary Rofalos.
Yes. Banned everywhere.
I keep this one. Is he banned in pre-modern? I don't think he is.
I think he is. Oh, I don't know about pre-modern. Really? Maybe not. I might be wrong.
Here we go. Let's see where he's banned.
I saw this when I saw this card. You know, I just learned about him. You know, this past year. Yeah. When I saw it, I was instantly like, "Oh my god, that is so good! I got to get that card."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, it's not legal anywhere."
Banned in Commander, illegal in more places than I realized. Legal in Vintage, illegal in Legacy.
Yeah.
Let me look at the pre-modern website. I wonder if he's banned or restricted in pre-modern. Where do I find that information on this website? Right here. I was scanning right past it. It is in alphabetical order. There's no Rofalos.
See, Flash is banned. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I did see that. No Flash hulking. Also, a bunch of the cards weren't even printed yet. There will be no Flash hulking. I wonder what is so bad about Flash in the absence of Flash Hulk. Because there's no Protean Hulk in this format. I wonder what else people were doing with it. But yeah,
I still can see how it could be broken with other things, though. Yeah.
Yeah. No Rofalos.
Okay.
Nobody. I've never seen Rofalos in like.
Now I have to get a Rofalos. Dang, isn't he like $40 or something?
No, he's cheaper than that. Yeah, he's still not cheap, but he's come down. Let's look at this goofy guy.
He's so goofy. Look at him.
He was $75, but he's still going down. So we'll see what happens here. $31 now. Not cheap, but not nearly as expensive as it used to be. Will it get back to $20, $19, $18? Who knows? We just discussed we live in an inflationary world, people. We don't know the answers to these things. If you want to buy a Rofalos now, not the worst time in history to do it.
No. Well, when we started, looking at this, he was $45, $50, it looks like.
Yeah.
Back in April.
This is a great manimal. 2/1 for 2 green. And to add 1 green mana to your mana pool for each forest you control.
And I love how this is such an Urza's thing. I love how they're like, it's not good enough that he taps to give you a shit ton of green mana and he only costs 2. But hey, let's also make him a 2/1 elf so he can attack and get pumped by other things if you need him to.
At least they made him a 2/1. and not a 2/2. So he can still be pinged by
True,
like a
yes,
plague
that's
spitter or a lot
true.
of other stuff.
But why isn't he 1/1? Like, what? That's so crazy.
I don't know. He costs 2 mana, Alex,
He doesn't look like a 2/1. This
No,
dork.
he doesn't. Yeah. I mean, he looks like he has 1 toughness. I will say that. But he doesn't look like he has 2 power.
No.
He's a rare. He's on the reserve list. So who knows? Maybe establish your Rofalos positions now, and then the next reserve list spike, he'll be $575,000. You never know. He has a rating of 4.509 on Gatherer. Current market price of $31.16. I like this guy.
Solid card, man. Just too good. Too good.
I gotta look around on TC decks, and search for him in any like pre-modern legal decks, because I don't see him show up in like pre-modern decks.
That's crazy. If he's legal in there, you'd think people would be using him. Just so good.
All of the like the tournament winning or the high placing elves decks that I always see in pre-modern tournament, they're always running 4 Gaia's Cradles. So maybe they're like, hell, we got 4 Gaia's Cradles. What do we need a Rofalos for?
Yeah.
He can be pinged. Maybe that's the thought. Maybe they also have like a 1 or 2 Rofalos thrown in there, and I just can't remember. Another card that he throws in here, Alex. This one I was kind of surprised by. Not that it's in there at all, but that he runs 4 of them. Elvish Lyrist, Urza's
3.
Saga.
He has 3, but yeah.
Dang
Still
nabbit.
seems like a lot. Like it seems more like a sideboard card.
Dang nabbit.
Or
I have 3 here. I even put 3 here in Moxfield. 3 Elvish Lyrist. It's nice. I like it. It's a scavenger folk for enchantments. 1/1, pay a green, tap, sacrifice Elvish Lyrist, destroy target enchantment. It was a common, first printed in Urza's Saga. It's been reprinted a bunch.
I think the deal with this is that there were probably just, he was doing this in Urza's block. This was like an Urza's block deck. So yeah. I'm thinking that it was just the fact that there were strong enchantments around and a lot of people building decks around, certain enchantments. And he just felt like he needed, because I think I saw something else in here that was enchantment removal too.
That was my guess too. I'm like,
he has, in the sideboard, he has 4 harmonic convergence, which returns all enchantments to top of owner's libraries.
4. Yeah, okay. I saw this and I'm like, okay, I want to not run it, but I was surprised that it wasn't like one of these and maybe 2 scavenger folk.
Yeah.
Or 2 of these and 1 scavenger folk. Like, why just our enchantment removal, not the artifact removal? And I assumed that it was going to be some like meta-specific decision, just based on what he thought he was going to be facing. It's the final creature. And the final card in the main board, the main deck that we haven't discussed yet, that he put in here is Masticore.
Masticore. This is a weird card for me, Steve. It is like universally loved and was apparently a huge thing.
I want to play it because I hear people talk about how much work it does, how difficult it is to play against in some decks. It's in the Elves deck that are always like really dominant in pre-modern tournaments. Mm-hmm. It's in other decks too. It's in this early version of the Rock, but I don't think it's run in like current versions of the Rock. But you do see it a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those cards that I look at, I'm like, it seems hard to play, but also could be great in the right deck. And if you play it right, I got to get some reps in with it, I feel like.
I didn't get it at first. Even the first couple times I saw this card, I was like, it does not seem that good. But the more I look at it and the more I'm seeing other people talk about it, and obviously just like from the evidence that it was used a lot, I'm starting to understand it a little more, I think. The discarding a card thing seems just so stiff. We'll go back up a little bit. I mean, it's 4 for a 4/4. So, okay, that's actually not, it's not like bad. A Su-Chi sort of type deal. It can go in any deck. It's, a standard like chunker creature for like a reasonable casting cost, and it has a couple abilities. They both cost 2 to use, but at least they're there. They make it better than a regular 4/4 for 4 mana. So that's good.
Yeah.
But then I see the discard card thing, so I'm like, discarding a card, that's horrible. But like we were just talking about, that might be good in certain decks. You might want to send stuff to your graveyard.
Yeah, you got to put them in a deck where you want to discard.
Yeah. And then I saw people talking, I was trying to read about it a little bit to understand, and I saw people comparing him sort of to like a Cursed Scroll, because you can use this just as like a mana sink late in the game.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
I see that too. I think those are the best instances in which to play them. One, a deck where you want to discard, and two, a deck also like this where you're going to generate just tons of mana with your Rofilos and some other
and this
stuff.
deck seems to with Priest of Titania and Rofilos.
Because then that's when this really does a lot of work for you.
Yeah, because you don't have to tap him. I think I
damage.
forget that too. That's one thing that I'm not like.
You could just feed them.
It's not a Tim that you have to tap once. Tap to do the thing every turn. Like you could pump 6 mana into this.
Yeah. You could pump 8 mana into it. Kill a 4/4. You can pump 10 mana into it. Kill a 5/5. That's all I got. I can't figure out the rest. He's a 4.39 on Gather. Also reserve list.
You
can see part of a reserve list spike here.
Coming
back down.
Pretty cheap right now, yeah.
Under $10. Probably not. I mean, not a terrible, been cheaper. Probably not a terrible time to pick up a Mastercore if you wanted to pick up a Mastercore. I stumbled across a YouTube video at some point months ago. There's this guy, I think his name is Nikachu. He's a YouTuber. He's also a player. I believe that, what was it? It might have been the Magic 30 event where they had the beta draft.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I believe he was in the beta draft. Like he was playing in the tournament there, and he got to that level. He did. He got to that level where he made the beta draft. And I thought it was funny because I only knew about him because I came across a video of his where he was like, I can't remember what the video was called, but it was something along the lines of like, these cards are now unplayable. And I clicked on it because I think the thumbnail had images of like Mastercore and Icy Manipulator. So I wanted to see. And it looked like it was a video made from one of his live streams where he was talking to his viewers about cards that people used to love back in the day in different formats that are like considered unplayable now, according to modern standards. Mastercore was one of them. But
I can see that. I'm sure there's stuff that's come along that has, more abilities and
in pre-modern, it's still big. It did a lot of work in this deck, and I can see it doing a lot of work in a lot of other decks as well. Anything where you want to discard in any deck where you generate a lot of mana. I mentioned the beta booster draft when I talked about Nikachu because he made it there, and one of the cards that he pulled in the draft was an Icy Manipulator. I just remember seeing that video where he was like, Icy Manipulator's trash. He wasn't.
That's
like that.
Sweet though. I mean, to pull a beta Icy, that would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I can't remember what else he drafted.
Obviously not the best thing you can get, but I think isn't Icy Manipulator an uncommon?
I think it is. Yeah. At least it was back in the day. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean in that printing.
Yeah, I don't know what it is now when it shows up in.
Yeah, so it wouldn't even waste your rare slot, which would be pretty cool. Yeah, it's an uncommon and unlimited in beta.
Anywho, the Mastercore.
Think about that, getting a Lotus and Icy. Very iconic cards.
This is the kind of deck I like. Creature-based, a lot of toolbox creatures. I love the recursion. I've never played a deck like this with recursion. I've been thinking about it a lot. That's why we did a segment on Enter the Battlefield creatures for the last 2 episodes that also happened to include Run Creature that we just realized this episode.
And I've been looking at it a lot too, and I hadn't really looked at this card yet, and it's so cheap. So now I'm like, oh, this would be a great fit for.
It's so cheap. And Phyrexian Plaguelord, cheap. I mean, the Hermit is the only thing that's expensive, and Rofilos, but you don't need a Rofilos. You probably don't need a Hermit. There's probably something else.
Yeah, there's other stuff you could do to. I mean, you could probably on a budget instead of playing that, just I don't know, throw in some wild growths or some I know there's cards that are better than that probably, but some cards that make things tap for multiple mana now.
Yeah,
or
wild growth is fine. This is Old Man Magic, Alex. You're allowed to talk about Old Man Magic cards. You're allowed to recommend.
Instill energy, and you could tap your Priest of Titania twice.
Yes. Lay Druid. I don't remember what it does, but it has something to do with untapping and tapping lands. Beautiful art. I always loved the art on Lay Druid. That was my favorite part of the card. I like that he has man lands in here, the Treetop Village. When I saw these Urza's man lands for the first time, I was like, these are sick. So you can get some early damage in while you're trying to build up your mana to bring out something higher casting cost here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confused by the 4 duresses. I'm not confused as to why somebody would want to put black discard in the deck, because it's one of the best things about black discard. But it's like, this is a deck that has, well, I first looked at it and I'm like, it has a deck that has no removal.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. It does have plenty of creature removal in the form of Phyrexian Plague Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to really put terrors in.
It has enchantment removal.
It has enchantment removal.
Yeah, this looks like it's probably for everything else, for the artifact removal and for counterspell removal.
So if I was playing black-green, what would I put in for removal? I would want to have a terror in, but you don't need terror in this deck if you have Mastercore and Phyrexian Plague Lord. You have better ways to remove creatures from the board, your opponent's creatures. You could feed mana into the Mastercore to kill them. You could sack the Plague Lord or sack little squirrel tokens to kill them. You don't need terror. For artifacts and enchantments, I would love to have Naturalize, but I was like, oh, this was pre-Onslaught, so Naturalize didn't exist. So maybe you do just slot discard here. Maybe there's nothing better that I can think
Plus,
of.
with discard or with duress, you get to see their hand too. I mean, that's not inconsequential, you know.
Yeah. And like you said, I'm talking about removal, but it doesn't do anything about counterspells. This could.
Oh yeah, it's wait, what? Non-creature, non-land. So yeah, okay. So you could get rid of instant sorceries and artifacts.
Yeah. And yeah, it does allow you to see their hands.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have thought of it if I was like making this deck and I had everything but the slot for duress. I probably wouldn't have thought to go that route with it. But
I wouldn't have either. Yeah.
I guess I could see how it works.
I don't know what I would have put there because, like I said, my head immediately goes to some black creature removal. But then it's like, okay, well, hold on a second. I got the Plague Lord in Mastercore, and I got Recursion to bring things back that I sacrificed to the Plague Lord or to bring back the Plague Lord. And then my head goes to Naturalize, which didn't exist. So
when I looked through this the first time, the card that didn't make sense to me the most was actually the Phyrexian Plague Lord. Now listening to you talk about it, I think I get it a little more. It's maybe more just like as a creature removal thing.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed kind of weird to me because it's like it's 5 casting cost, it's 2 black, and you only have 4 swamps.
Yeah.
It's high casting cost. You can't really use your add green to your mana pool abilities to get him out because of that 2 black. I mean, it helps, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought like yeah, certainly I love the counters to kill creatures, the negative counters, but I'm just wondering what else there is that you could have put in instead of him. You know what I mean? It just seemed like seemed a little bit weird to me.
Yeah. I think we'll see in the future versions of the deck that we go through, I think we'll see the Plague Lord getting slotted out of the deck, getting removed from the deck, or at least becoming less important in the deck as we go along.
Yeah, maybe it was just because of like the Urza's block meta and what other like black and green creatures were available.
What other creature removal existed?
Was available, yeah.
We will get to points where he does seem to be slotted out for removal, not terror, as I said.
Okay,
My head goes to the old men magic cards like terror, but the more I've looked at them, the more I've thought about them, I kind of want to play with them still. I'm like, I don't know if it was a good decision. Is it the best decision to remove him from the deck? I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure, Alex. It's just the thing I don't like about him is he's so much 5 mana.
Yeah.
The other thing about this deck, I never build decks like this. Moxfield, but this was a high performing deck, you know, even though it was just an early version of it. If you go to the mana curve, Moxfield, when you build a deck in Moxfield, it shows you the mana curve.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
I never build decks with like flat mana curves like this. Never. If I saw this, I'd be like, oh, I need to change things around. But obviously, you can make a deck with a flat mana curve like this that works just fine. You know, most of my decks, I like to have the 1 here and then kind of slope down. Like your
it's a lot of like 5 casting cost.
A lot. 4, 3. It's about even. the whole way
Yeah.
around. I never build decks like this.
I would like to see. I'd be curious to see in play how often he's like straight up casting the Deranged Hermit and how often he's bringing it from his graveyard.
Yeah.
But even then, with Duress, it's still a 4 casting cost card.
what was that?
I think he's probably relying more on
Even-
the Priest of Titania and Rofalos to like be able to cast these guys.
You mean even then with Mastercore, it's still a forecasting cost card. You said even then with Duress.
Oh,
Even
No,
though it's Mastercore, that's what you meant. Because you pitch him with Mastercore.
I didn't mean that either. I meant
Diabolic Servitude.
yeah, Diabolic Servitude.
Yeah. Yeah. Because even if you want to pitch them to the Mastercore is still 4. And then you got to bring them back from the graveyard with your enchantment, but that enchantment is still 4 and it's still a black. It doesn't seem like a fast moving deck to me. This is the kind of deck. It's again not the kind of deck that I play. I don't play curves like this often. On turn 1, I like to put out a creature. On turn 2, I like to put out a slightly bigger creature. I'll get nervous if I'm just like putting out man lands or manimals for like the first couple turns. You don't want to attack or block with them because you don't want to lose them.
Right.
The Treetop Village, even if you got to activate them, it still takes 3 mana and it comes into play tap. So it's not like a super fast. Still like it's a turn 3 card still if you want to be attacking or blocking.
Yeah.
With it. So yeah, it seems like if you played this deck, it might be kind of slow to develop. But if you get this recursion going, you can really probably turn the tides pretty quickly and then take over from there. Anywho.
Interesting.
Do you have anything else to say about the introduction to the rock, Alex?
I don't think so.
Jelger Wiegersma's
I think I voiced all of my
1999 version of the rock.
questions and concerns.
If I was playing this deck, I'd go boom, turn 1, forest. Then I'd go next turn. I'd go boom, turn 1, swamp. Elvish Lyrist. And then I'm out of mana. No, I can't play anything in my hand. No, I still can't play anything in my hand. Now I have a. This isn't going well for me, Alex. That's a Treetop Village that's coming to play tapped. Now I can play an Elder. What are we? Turn 5. I'm screwed.
Yeah, it wasn't too impressive.
Here we go. This one's looking better. Boom. Elvish Lyrist. Turn 2. I'm going to boom again, Alex. I'm going to go Priest of Titania. Boom. Now turn 3,
you have
Alex.
now you have mana. Now you're
I'm
doing
going to
good.
go boom. Another boom.
You
What
get
do I
the
do
Hermit
here?
out now.
I got to think, Alex. I got to think about what it is I want to do here. I'm going to go. This might be stupid. People are yelling at the screen. They're yelling at me. I'm going to go 2 Elvish Lyrists. No, I'm not. I'm going to go 1. I'm going to tap the Priest. I'm going to play the Granger. I'm going to get a Forest. I'm going to get a Swamp. And then after I get the Swamp, I'm going to play the Mastercore. Anyways, Alex, that's me playing the early version of the Rock. And then I'm going to pitch something to the Mastercore. And then I got a Priest of Titania. And I just got a Force and a Priest of Titania, an empty hand, and now my Mastercore dies. This is not going well for me.
Does the Mastercore die? Like if you can't?
I don't know. I can't remember. If you don't sacrifice Mastercore, yeah. If you don't discard a card, you sacrifice Mastercore. I mean, I could have pitched the 4. I didn't have to sacrifice him then, but it just wasn't going well for me, Alex. I give up. This is when I flip the table. I leave the tournament. Next draw is just a Forest. I got nothing. Oh my God.
If you have to sacrifice
Next
the
draw
mana
is just a
core,
Forest. I got nothing.
if you have to sacrifice the mana core, you could use its ability on like its way out, couldn't you?
Probably. Seems like it. Don't see why not.
I don't know all about the timing there during like your upkeep phase, but I think you could do that.
Well, yeah, you don't even have to wait till your upkeep phase to feed the mana into it.
True.
Well, I'm sorry. If you're tapped out, you would, but Yeah, like you could also do this on your opponent's turn if you needed to. Anyways, I wasn't playing the deck very well. It didn't go well for me right there. But that's our introduction to the rock. In coming episodes, Alex, we're going to talk a little bit about how the deck evolved. We got Sol Malka's version of the rock coming up. I think that's when it was actually named the rock. Then this article also talks about, why don't I just pull up the article? This article also talks about, so there's Sol Malka. He's touching his chin. He's thinking. He's like,
He's pondering.
Do I sacrifice the Master Core or not? After that, we had Michael Pustelnik bringing the rock back in 2001 extended. 2005, Ernie Marchesno's the rock. We'll talk about some of these. I don't know if I'll get this far because I think this is modern.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna do about the modern. I think I'm gonna end. We're gonna end here.
Snake Man warriors and stuff there that I don't know about.
We haven't gotten to modern yet, but there's a lot that happens in this deck between 99 and 2001 that's going to be fun to talk about. That's the end of our inaugural rock segment. We're going to move on now, Alex, to
inaugural rock segment.
We haven't even made it to it's not even a rock segment yet. It's still a diabolic servitude. No, a deranged servitude segment.
Yeah.
Our first the rock segment hasn't even started. But now we're going to end the show, Alex. We're going to end the show with our last segment of the day, which is the Old Man Magic Commander Corner. This is where Alex and I continue building our first ever commander decks. We are building Old Man Magic commander decks that are using only old frame cards. My deck I named last week. I had a very exciting segment. We brought Arnold Schwarzenegger into the show. I named my deck The Pump. You can see it's coming along nicely. I got 12 creatures, 1 sorcery, 2 instants, 4 enchantments, and 1 land built into the deck so far. Only 1 red card. Everything else is either green or gold.
Yeah, I'm waiting for another red card.
Red's coming. But today, Alex, I'm going to add mana. I'm going to start adding my lands to the deck. And one of the big reasons I decided to build this deck is because I had a Jacques Levert. You know, when we first got back into Magic, I wanted to start buying some old legendary creatures that I didn't have when I was a kid. Jacques Levert was one of the cheaper but still somewhat playable ones. I picked up the Jacques. I don't know why this terrible symbol is on my Jacques Levert.
Yeah.
Switch printing. That was hurting me. I don't have a Master's Edition Jacques Levert. I have a Legends Jacques Levert. But one of the reasons I built this deck is because, one, I had Jacques Levert. He was white, green, red. Another is, I thought, okay, there's no such thing as a cheap dual land, but some dual lands are cheaper than others. And one of the first things I bought was one of the cheap dual lands. When we first got back into it, I bought a plateau. So I'm going to add myself a plateau, Alex. A plateau from Alpha. I bought an Alpha plateau.
No, you did not.
No, I did not. I have a 1 revised plateau. Also, over the course of the last 6 to 8 months, I've purchased myself a Taiga and a Savannah.
All right. That's awesome.
So these are my dual lands in my commander deck. 3 of the cheaper dual lands. I have 4 dual lands total. They're the cheapest. Plateau, Savannah, Taiga, Scrubland. I think I'm done with dual lands for a very long time now. In addition to the dual lands, Alex, I'll add pain lands. I have a Battlefield Forge. This is very exciting to the viewers watching me add my Battlefield Forge from Apocalypse. What are the other ones, Alex? I'm gonna try to remember the names. So we got a red-white, we got a green-white Scrubland. No, not Scrubland. I always call it Scrubland. Brushland.
That's the Ice Age Painland?
I purchased an Ice Age Brushland, not to brag. An OG, original Brushland.
I've been looking for one of those, actually. I mean, I had all the Painlands, but I think that was one of the ones I kind of wanted more. The Ice Age one's kind of like cool looking, isn't it? Like the pumpkin patchy.
It is
kind
a
of thing.
pumpkin patch. It's just like, so this is, was it last episode or 2 episodes ago when we were talking, I was like, oh, just add the fog if you can't paint something.
Slap some fog on there.
This guy's
Like,
like,
oh, my cat walked across the painting like with painty paws, but put some fog over it.
this artist, he really focused on the pumpkins, but once he was done with the pumpkins, he's like, I'm just kind of done with this.
He ran out of time. He's like, I'm only
They give them unfair deadlines.
done with the bottom
honest.
third.
Exactly. Like, I don't understand how the artist is supposed to work under these conditions. If you know, if Wizards is going to demand the artwork if they're going to have a very short time window to produce the artwork, they're going to get fog. If they don't want fog, you got to give the people more time. What's the other one I need? I need a red green. Carplusan Forest.
There you go.
Also from Ice Age. I have a Carplusan Forest.
Nice.
I did buy some of the very first things that I bought when we first started buying again were the Pain Lands, because I got excited by pre-modern for 2 reasons. One, that it was still like old school Magic. Wasn't that far off from what we remembered from back in the day when we were playing like Wizards. When we were playing with like Mirage, Visions, Weatherlight cards and stuff. Still similar enough to the kind of Magic we used to play back in the day, but it still had all these sets that I wasn't that familiar with. You know, we quit before Urza's Saga. Mercadian Masks existed, but we didn't really pay attention to Mercadian Masks. Plane Shift, Apocalypse, Invasion. I'd never seen any of these things, so it was like new Magic to me too. That got me excited. That was one thing. The other thing that got me excited was dual lands weren't legal in the format. So I was like, okay, to build most decks, if I want to build multicolored decks, I don't need dual lands. I buy Pain Lands, which are much cheaper.
Yeah.
So I'm filling out my multicolored mana base for my Naya deck, Alex. I got my 3 duels.
That looks real nice.
I got my 3 Pain Lands. It is coming along.
I have some work to do on that.
It is coming along. Well,
all of my dual lands are unfortunately allocated into scrub lands. So
you have a more difficult situation because you've built yourself a 5-colored deck.
Yes, yeah.
Which, listen, we're not building. No, I almost said we aren't building cEDH decks. That's not true. We are building cEDH decks. On the Old Men Magic podcast, cEDH stands for Casual EDH. So we are building cEDH decks, casual EDH decks. So you don't need. You could build a 5-color
so confusing.
deck. You could build a 5-color deck without having the dual lanes. You don't need.
It's
them.
true, and I'm not going like an equal 5-color thing. I don't think really either. So it's it's gonna be like green heavy.
You know what? I just reminded myself. I'm adding another card right now, Alex, because I'm talking about how you don't need dual lands for these multicolored decks, and I remembered that there's another multicolored land that I purchased specifically for my commander deck, and I'm just gonna do it now since this is a big land day. I think this is what it's called. How do I get in there? Ritz Grove.
Oh yeah, okay.
One of the layer lands.
I like these.
I do too. They're very cool. Plane Shift. Layers, Ritz Grove from Plane Shift. It is a layer in addition to its land type. These were totally new to us. Layers didn't exist back in 1997, 1998. When Ritz Groves come into play, sacrifice it unless you return a non-layer land you control to its owner's hand. Not a huge deal. Tap it for a red, green, or white. So it's a tricolored land. You don't need to kill anything. You don't need to destroy any lands. You just bump it back to your hand for 1 turn.
Yeah.
It's
and I really like how it
fixer.
works with Gemstone Mine.
Absolutely. You know what, Alex? You just reminded me. I'm going to do that right now. I have Gemstone Mines. This is another card that I bought when I was like, I want to fill out my pre-modern mana base. I just did it. I'm going crazy today. I'm adding cards left and right. The viewers are loving this.
You better add a Gemstone Mine into mine because I'm going to need that.
They're like, Steve, keep adding lands. We love this segment. We love it when you add more lands to your deck. It's amazing. I'm adjusting myself in my chair. That's it for today. These are my additions. I've added 8 lands, Alex, today.
Wow.
Big day.
Yeah.
We're going to Alex's deck. Alex, before we actually add a card to your deck, I want to show you something. I want to mention something.
Mm-hmm.
You are building a group hug deck. We have talked before a little bit about group hug decks. I know you've read some articles on building group hug decks. I know that we've talked about some creatures and other cards that are very popular in cEDH, casual EDH group hug decks. One of the cards we've talked about that seems to be very popular in our group hug deck is a Feldegriff, Alex.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
There was a video published this past week, several days ago.
Oh, yeah?
If you want to put a Feldegriff in your deck and you do not have it yet, I don't know what's going to happen to the price of Feldegriff, Alex. Alex.
Is it going up?
Creepy Rudy has moved into the purple elephant business. I did not write this text here. This is the closed caption from Rudy's video. He called himself Creepy Rudy, and he has moved into the purple elephant business. So every once in a while, Rudy will do these videos where he will say that somebody else was staging a buyout and that they're now selling him the 500 copies of whatever it is that they bought to him, probably for pennies on the dollar. I don't know why they would be doing this. I have a deep suspicion about these videos, actually. I wonder if did somebody really just buy 500 Feldegriffs and then after 6 months later decide to sell them to Rudy? Or did Rudy type up that letter? I don't know. But Rudy made a video about the Feldegriff.
Yeah, and this is a very common commander for group hug decks.
So he also said in this video that he's like, I'm adding this to my position. I have a small position in Feldegriff already, several hundred. I think he said several hundred. So it's like, how many people do this with random reserve list cards where they literally buy 100? I really wonder what's going on. Alex, ask me how many copies of Grinning Totem I have.
How many?
None of your business. I don't know why people do stuff like this with random cards. Anyways, I just wanted to put that out there. I didn't know if you wanted to put a Feldegriff in your deck, if you had.
Well, I had thought about it. I saw that
if you had one already.
And I do not have one, so okay. I'm gonna have to try to grab one if I see it.
Well, it hasn't gone crazy yet. Rudy made the video. I don't know if every time he makes a video something spikes. I don't know how often that happens. Guess we'll see. I just wanted to make you aware. Alpha Investments has moved into the.
All right. Well, good to know.
Creepy Alpha Investments has moved into the purple elephant business.
Good to know.
Also, he did say elephant. I mean,
that's a hippo.
It's not an elephant to me. Doesn't look like one to me. But you might say it's a hippo, but you also might say, hey, it has wings. Hippos don't have wings. So what is it really? Who knows? Give him some slack. Back to the Old Man Magic Commander corner. Alex, back to your deck, which has no name yet. It is
no name.
Alex.
Yeah. That's symbolic of my floundering progress here. I'm not really sure where I'm going. I'm all over the board. It's gonna see some revisions in the next few weeks as I think about it more. But
these decks are allowed to change. We make the rules here. We can do whatever.
After my initial idea, I've stalled out a little bit here on how to proceed as far as the breakdown of the ratios of different types of cards in the deck. So I'm still just kind of throwing in some cards that I think might randomly fit this feel, and I'm hoping to make it a little more cohesive as I go. I don't know. So there's a couple cards I want to talk about, but I'm not really sure if I want to add them to the deck.
Add a scrubland today.
Let's add a scrubland and a gemstone mine, Steve. We're gonna scrubland and gemstone mine.
Hell yeah! Oh, and you know what we're gonna do here? My Old Man Magic co-host has an unlimited scrubland. So we're going to do this. Unlimited. This is very exciting for the viewers. Damn it.
We have never seen one of these before.
Whoa, did you see that change?
Oh, look at it go. So pretty.
Unlimited scrubland, and you're adding a gemstone mine. You can talk as I'm adding the gemstone mine.
Okay. Another card I was thinking about adding is Despotic Scepter. Do you remember that card from Ice Age? I believe it's a 1 casting cost scepter, and you use it to destroy one of your own permanents.
I remember the name, but like I couldn't
Mhm.
tell you what it did or what the casting cost is. I'm getting it confused with Guspa's Scepter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah.
Clearly, I don't even really know what that card does either. But that says something like you can take a card from your hand and put it under Guspa's Scepter.
I cannot remember.
Hold on a second. Let's take a break from the Commander Corner so I can look up Guspa's Scepter. Guspa's. No. Gusta's.
Gustas.
I don't know why I was putting a P in there. Gusta's Scepter.
Oh, I remember this artwork. Yeah.
0 casting cost scepter. If it leaves play or you lose control, put all the cards under it into the graveyard. You can tap the scepter to put any card from your hand face down under the scepter. You may look at that card at any time. I want to play this card just so like every turn I could be like, hold on a second.
Just keep looking at the card.
What's under there again? Okay. You can also tap it to return any card under Gusta's Scepter to
So
your
this is
hand.
like putting cards from your hand into escrow.
Yeah. Can you only do it? Do you have to tap it? Every time you tap it, can you only put one card and you can do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just started thinking about this because I'm running into some. Let's go back to my deck just for one brief moment.
What is this supposed to be like? Anti-discard?
I'm not
going to
defense
against discard?
I guess. I don't see any other use for it. And even in that case, I don't think it's that good.
Yeah.
Which is why nobody bought it at all over the years. It's a reserve list card from Alliances. It has a spike and just coming back down.
The skinniest spike.
Yeah. Somebody tried it. Rudy he purchased 5,000 copies of Gusta's Scepter. Anyways, let's get back to Despotic Scepter.
Yeah.
1 casting cost Scepter from Artifact. Tap to bury target permanent you own.
Yeah. Okay. So this guy could use this to like, kill my commander when she goes to my other, like to my opponent's control. That, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I want to like add a card to my deck just to do that. It seems like not that great of a bargain, but it might come in handy. And depending on what I put in here in the future, there might be some other cards that get shuffled around, or I might use some enchantment type cards. Like we were talking about the Phyrexian Infiltrator last week, where you
that's what I was thinking.
Things.
I was thinking about this card in the context of a deck where you're constantly stealing things from your opponent and you just take them and then you destroy them with the scepter. And I don't know.
Yeah. So I might try to do some trickery with something like that, some creature swapping. I thought I'd put it in now because it's 1 casting cost, and I'll keep it there as a placeholder to remember, and maybe it'll make me think of something else to put in the deck.
In the future, you'll be looking through your deck and be like, what the hell is this doing here? What can I replace it with?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Here's an empty slot.
Despotic Scepter.
And then I'll do, in the tradition of last week, I'll do a card that I don't think I'm going to add.
Okay.
Last week I talked about Tempting Worm and decided that it was too much of a swing, like board swing, give too much stuff to my opponents at one time. I don't like it.
It is a fun card, though.
But it is fun. It might still. I might still pop it in here. I could always move that in and out of this deck if I want to. Another card that I had initially maybe thought about when I first heard about group hug decks was Aku Jin.
Oh,
Visions.
Yeah.
Remember him?
Yeah, one of the many Jins. I'm always like, I want to make this Jin work.
Yeah, and I have like 2 of these, I think, from back in the day. He's 5/6 trample.
2 black, 5/6 trample. Yep.
Yeah. During your upkeep, each opponent puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature he or she controls. So he's a big fatty, but he has a steep downside, at least if your opponents are playing creatures or you don't have enough good creature removal.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So I don't know. I mean, this could go in a group hug deck.
It
Things
could
get out of control and chaotic. It could make people, my opponents are going to be fighting each other some too. So, I mean, but it also seems to me like it might give too much an advantage to my opponents. So we'll think about it. We'll keep it in the back pocket.
What do you do with this card if you wanted to just play it?
I think you sideboard it against creatureless decks.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like, You can find a better creature for the mana.
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say. I'm like, even you could find a better creature for the mana. It's 3 colorless, 2 black. Even back in the day, it was like,
yeah. I'd rather play like, you know, a Shivan or something, or
yeah. That's what I was like. What's a Mohammadi Jinn? 3 colorless, 2 blue.
Yeah.
I know it's a different
He's
color.
5/6 flying.
Don't come at me. Leave me alone. But yeah, it's also 5/6 and flying, not trample, but it flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about this guy.
I don't know, maybe in some kind of trample, you know, some deck that like really relies on trample. I don't know.
I want to build a trample Jinn deck.
Trample Jinn.
They got to have the AQ. But I always want to build some goofy Jinn decks, and I just never end up doing it. There's always, I don't know. I bought a few Jinns over the last 6 months. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with this.
Yeah.
The answer is nothing. I'm not going to do anything.
Good flavor text on this one too, like relates to what the card actually does.
Your arrogance amazes me, Kervek. Did you not know the price you would pay? Said
Did you not know?
Mangara.
So yeah.
Okay. So Alex added a scrubland. He added a gemstone mine. He's got a city of brass.
Yeah.
He's got 4 lands, 3 enchantments, 3 artifacts, 1 instant, 6 creatures, 1 commander.
I'm stalling this week a little bit. I'll come up with something better for next week.
Just put in any old cards, any little cards.
Any old cards.
I just loaded up with land today.
Something to do, you know, some work in this deck, like win condition wise and stuff. So.
Okie dokie. My win condition is just to attack with creatures. That's all.
Yeah.
I know.
Very simple. It's good.
Keep it simple. Okay, Alex.
All right, Steve.
That brings us to the end of episode 30 of the Old Man Magic podcast.
Episode 30.
It was incredible. We started off by realizing that our previous 2 episodes made no sense. Or that's not true. Just one part of our previous episode made no sense. I learned that an enter the battlefield creature we were talking about isn't even an enter the battlefield creature.
But that's what you get here. We admit our mistakes. We learn as we go.
We began our odyssey, where we're teaching ourselves and possibly some viewers about the evolution of the rock deck. We added more cards to our cEDH, casual EDH, first ever commander decks. And that's all I got. I think it was a packed show. I also complained about the post office just showing some cards. It was a packed show today, Alex. So I think we're going to wrap up.
Good show.
I'll say to the viewers, if you made it this far and you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to our channel. Please give us a like. Please hit that notification bell. Do all those things. Do you have any final words to add, Alex?
No, thanks for tuning in.
Okay, then. See ya next week for episode 31.